One small step for man, one small step for mankind. Those immortal words were spoken on the surface of the moon 50 years ago this very day. I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about it in the context of a documentary that came out back in March called Apollo 11. And this is going to be a special edition of my conservative take. We're going to talk about that and all of this and my thoughts about the 50th anniversary of the lunar landing. And we're going to start right now. Hi, I'm Kyle. Welcome to my channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and we filter it right. If this is your first time here, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. Today, we're going to talk about the lunar landing, the 50th anniversary of that, and in context of the documentary that came out in March of 2019 called Apollo 11. This documentary was so amazing, I just had to do this. I'm going to do this in my style of conservative take. If you're not familiar with that, I basically take 5 categories and I compute it against a weighted average and I give a score, 1 to 10, and then I give in go, no go, or go with caution in terms of whether or not you should go in terms of my conservative take. Okay, so this movie called Apollo 11 came out again in March of 2019. It was premiered at the Sundance Film Festival to high scores, high remarks, and rightfully so. The film is produced and directed by Todd Douglas Miller. It was produced by CNN Films and distributed by Neon Pictures. So basically this film is a 3-act film. It's the pre-launch and the launch, the moon excursion, and the return home. I'm going to talk about that as we go forward. So all the footage in this film was archival footage. It was previously unreleased. And the director puts this into a storyline in a way that's really cool because you're actually thinking when you first see it that these are actors. Number one, I saw this in high definition and it looked amazing. And you're thinking a movie that's 50 years old or footage that's 50 years old should not look this good, but it does. It looks great. And you see this in the eyes of a filmmaker because obviously the team that was doing the filming of this were filmmakers. They do establishment shots, they do zooms, pans, all of that. So it has a very theatrical feel to it. And that was pretty refreshing and not expected. On top of that, what the filmmaker does is he actually gives a score that is really, really good. And he puts it in at the times that you want it and leaves it out on the times that you don't want it. And I'll cover that a little bit later. The film is very immersive. Once you start watching this film, about 20 minutes in, you are now at mission control. You are now in the lunar module. You are now the reporter watching this. You are now the people at the launch site looking up at the sky and seeing this rocket go up in the air. It's really cool. Again, there is no narration whatsoever on this. There is no commentator. The only people you hear are mission control, maybe an occasional fan, but mostly it's the astronauts talking with mission control and news outlets talking about it, reporting it. So this is real footage, and so you're getting this feeling. So you're thinking that this is CNN watching this live and at an exponential rate because, of course, they skip over some things as well. And the director also feels that you know enough about this to not have to do exposition. One tool that he does do is this, is that he gives you gauges on the lower right or lower left, whether it be the fuel that's going to be left for the landing of the lunar module, whether it be the velocity or the distance, what they're going from, or whatever. And so you can see what NASA is seeing. And so you're actually thinking as they're coming down, oh my goodness, they're low on fuel. What's going to happen? They only have like 20 seconds left of fuel. And of course, there's warning lights going off and stuff. It's really, 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 really neat. And it's a way of doing it that really, again, puts you into the movie and makes you feel like you're part of it. So when they're on the moon, there's this one shot they come off, which they show a still image of the moon in a very, very wide shot. And it's just a beautiful sight. And you're looking at it, you're like, you know what? This is really the real thing. And you're just in awe of what's going on. And there's no music at all. When they're on the surface of the moon, there's no music. It's just them talking, and you see reactionary shots from mission control, and you see stuff going on inside the cockpit with, Buzz as he's waiting for him to get off. And so at the end of each act, you have a powerful musical score. When the launch is going up in the air, you feel the pressure going up. When the actual lunar module has to eject up into the orbit so they can catch up with the Columbia lunar module. That is a big, intense moment. And of course, when they're coming in to reentry, of course, that's also a big finish too. So you have these three semi-climaxes within this film, and it's all driven by the musical score. So one thing I didn't know was the actual lunar module and the limb, which was attached to each other, once they separated to go down to the surface of the moon, they became two separate entities. The eagle was basically the limb, which was actually landed. The eagle has landed. That was the limb. And then the other piece of it, the command module, that was called Columbia. And until they came back together again, was the mission again called Apollo 11. So it was disjointed. So when they were not together, it was no longer Apollo 11. There were two separate missions going on. You had Columbia up here in space orbiting around, waiting for them to come back. And you have the Eagle on the surface of the moon waiting for, their time to come up and get reattached. So that was pretty interesting. Again, another example of them not giving you exposition. They just figured that you know this, or you're going to be smart enough to go Google it and figure out for yourself. So on reentry, this is the climax of the film. They're coming in. You see the stress on Mission Control's face. You see them trying to communicate and figure out what's going on. They actually give you details of the astronauts' heart rate up to 150, and you know that they're really under stress and so forth. So they give you that kind of information. So when they finally splash down, you see a release. You see the excitement in the Mission Control Center. You see the people, how they were so proud to be American. You see them waving American flags in the Mission Control Center. You saw the families come in as well, and that was a nice touch. And I'll leave the credits to yourself. I won't spoil that. That was a really refreshing piece of it. And so, at the end of the day, Apollo 11 is a fantastic documentary, one of the very best documentaries I've ever seen, one of the most creative documentaries I've ever seen, and the one that is very minimalist, that doesn't get in the way of itself. It just has the footage, puts it out there, puts it in a timeline, throws in a narrative, a really, really cool score, and knows when to apply it, and that's it. And then it just does nice edits, and the fact that the film crew initially gave them such great footage to begin with the pans and the zooms and the establishment shots and so forth, really made this an easier production than it would have done had it been just a regular news broadcast. So there's that. That's my opinion. I'm going to give my score right here above here. You'll see my conservative take. I break it down in these 5 categories. I give it a score of 19 out of 20, which is a very high score. That translates to 4 stars. And I don't typically give a film 4 stars, but this one absolutely deserved it. I gave it a 10 in my overall opinion because I don't see how this could have been a better film. Oftentimes in movies like this, a film isn't going to have all of the categories. And so the overall score to me just shows that what they were given, the filmmaker did exactly what he needed to do, and there was not anything he could do, in my opinion, that was more. The story is what it is. They go up, they come down, that's it. There is no plot, there is no whatever. We know about that. But given that and given everything else around it, what they were able to do to it, the creativity in presenting it to the audience was superb. So check that out. And I also want to just parlay this into the fact that when I finished watching this film, I was so filled with pride to be an American. To know that John F. Kennedy put forth a vision in '61 to get a man from the earth to the moon and back safely, and do it by the end of the decade. And that's exactly what happened. The 60s were a very traumatizing decade, and the moon landing in many ways saved the 60s. There's a quote at the end of the miniseries, From the Earth to the Moon, which was produced by Tom Hanks, the same people that did Band of Brothers and so forth, where it said that, thank you for saving the 60s. And they were talking about the lunar landing that happened in the last year of that decade. And so with that, I want to also say this, that this film, in terms of my conservative take, is that I don't see anything offensive about this. Of course, in today's age, people will be upset for many, many things. I won't get into that in this video. But to me, it just shows that Americans can do whatever we want to do if we're given the time, the money, and the vision to put forth. And I was very proud of that. I'm very proud to be an American. I'm proud to be part of a country that has the boldness to do what they did. By no stretch of the imagination, is America perfect? I will never say that. But I will say this. It is the only country in the world that has the ability to correct the flaws in itself. It was founded to be that way. They knew the flaws going in, but they set up forth a system where it could be corrected in future generations. And so nothing makes me prouder than that. And so I hope you check this film out, Apollo 11. It is a fantastic documentary, one of the best I've seen. And if you have seen it, let me know. Did you like it? If you are trying to see it or want to see it, also let me know. And at that, if you like the content on this channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and we filter it right, please hit that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. And with that, please check out some videos that I have right here.